With the NFL season just around the corner, I figured it would be good to end this season of Irrelevant on a high note, especially after the less than ideal 2024 season. So what better way to end on that high note than by celebrating the reason why this series exists in the first place, quarterback 1, Brock Purdy. And what better way to do that than by going over my own personal list of his 15 best plays over the past 3 seasons. So sit back as we relive some of the best moments of Brock Purdy's career. It's crazy to think that 3 years ago, the 49ers would use a throwaway draft pick on a franchise-changing player, but as we all know, that's exactly what happened. Brock's career has already been filled with many highs and quite a few lows. Actually, what's really crazy to me is that as I was going over plays in 2023 that I really liked, I realized that I could make an entire list based on nothing but that one season. What's more is that I could also make a respectable list based on the 2024 season, even though it wasn't the season that people thought it was going to be. I've seen lists where a person will give their honorable mentions first, but I wanted to be different simply because there are so many plays to choose from. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you 5 plays from each season, which would equal 15. Now, these plays aren't going to be in chronological order because I think some plays are better than others. But I also wanted to give the honorable mentions their due, so I thought it would be cool to give an honorable mention to another play that's similar to the play that I chose. For example, if I were to choose Brock's deep touchdown pass to CMC in his first start, I could choose to make his touchdown pass to Ayuk in that same game as an honorable mention simply because those 2 passes were so similar. But I might like one over the other for a specific reason, which I would then go over. Something I want you to keep in mind though, is that the honorable mention might not be a play from the same season, as you will soon see. So, without further ado, here's my list of the top 15 plays of Brock Purdy's career with some honorable mentions. One of the things that I've seen people give Purdy a lot of credit for is his willingness to take a hit if it means getting the ball downfield, and that usually means that he's getting blitzed, and no 2 plays really show that off better than these 2. First, as our honorable mention, is the absolute dart that Purdy threw to one of his favorite targets, George Kittle, in the 2023 Week 15 game against the Cardinals when he connected with Kittle for the first down. One thing to remember about this play was this was after Purdy had been evaluated for a stinger that he had sustained earlier in the game. And while that was an amazing throw, it doesn't quite live up to the play where we all said to ourselves, is this guy legit? Of course, I'm talking about my number 15 play, the throw he made to Kittle as he was getting hit to convert to first down in Week 13 of 2022 against the Dolphins after he took over for Jimmy G. We didn't know what Purdy was at the time, so all we were seeing was a third-string quarterback get blasted by the defender as he let the ball go. And when Kittle made that catch, I think we all knew that the Niners possibly had something special. After the 2023 season, one of the many things we discovered about Purdy was that he was actually more mobile than we gave him credit for. For this entry, I wanted to give the honorable mention to Purdy's rushing touchdown from the Week 11 loss against the Seahawks. I think that run really solidified his scramble ability, and quite honestly his tenacity to get points for the team, even if that meant putting his own body in danger. But should we really have been that surprised to find out that when a play breaks down, Purdy will find a way to get points? I don't think so, because at number 14, I actually have his first rushing touchdown against the Bucs in Week 14. The reason I find this one so special is because this was Purdy's first official start, so again, no one really knew what he was going to be. Now, Purdy has had many other rushing touchdowns since that moment, but once again, I think this play showed that Purdy was a dog and that people were going to be shocked by what he could really do. Now, I think this one is going to be weird for some people, mostly because it wasn't a really flashy play, but I wanted to highlight this one because one of Purdy's strengths is his ability to process very quickly, and that was on full display in our next entry. To demonstrate this, I wanted to give the honorable mention to his third run against the Lions in the NFC Championship game. The drive came down to 3rd and 4, and right away, Purdy could tell that the play was going to break down, and he ran for 21 yards, saving the drive and setting up McCaffrey to have an amazing run, which eventually led to the touchdown. So now you might be saying, well, why is that only an honorable mention? And it's because of the number 13 play that occurred in Week 8 of 2024 against the Cowboys. I wanted to highlight this play because when I saw it for the first time, I couldn't believe that it actually happened, and that was Purdy's split-second decision to not throw the ball to Debo and instead take off running to get the first down. From the way it looked, the play called for Purdy to receive the snap and immediately swing it out to Debo. But as soon as Purdy turns to throw the ball, he sees that the defender would almost assuredly knock the pass down or intercept it, so he took off. Now, it could just be me, but when I saw this play for the first time, I honestly thought that it was a designed run because of how smooth it looked. And the best part was that it confused the defense because Purdy had nothing but open field to run. So while it may not have been a flashy play on everyone's radar, for me, that decision making was second to none. So I've already given this one away, but since the honorable mention and the actual entry took place in the same game, I figured I would use it as an example. In my mind, the honorable mention and the actual entry could be interchangeable, but one just inches out the other. For the honorable mention, I went with Purdy's deep touchdown pass to Brandon Ayuk in his first NFL start against the Buccaneers. The reason I went with this is because it showed off that Purdy wasn't afraid to take the chance to throw deep to his receiver with multiple defenders around. When you see where Ayuk caught the ball, you immediately notice how close the other defenders actually were. But of course, number 12 has to be the touchdown pass before this one, the deep shot to McCaffrey. And the reason this one gets the nod over the pass to Ayuk is because Purdy stayed in the pocket and took a wicked shot by the defense. Once again, it was Purdy's toughness that really showed what kind of quarterback he would end up being. In fact, it was on this play that Purdy actually suffered an injury to his oblique that could have kept him out the following week. After that touchdown, he still played for most of the game until he was taken out when the game was well in hand. He had, in my opinion, one of the best starts to any rookie career, and he showed with these two passes that he wasn't going to play it safe. For this entry, I looked over the plays, and while there are different throws that led to touchdowns, for me, it's all about the accuracy that Brock has, and these two plays show that off nicely. One thing I want to point out is that the honorable mention that I had for this entry could actually be on someone's list, and no one would disagree. But Purdy's back shoulder touchdown pass to Deebo Samuel in Week 15 of the 2023 Cardinals game was simply perfect. When someone says that Purdy put the ball in the only place the receiver could catch it, this throw is a perfect example. Because not only was it pinpoint accurate, there was nothing the defender could do to break up the play, and it was so close to the end zone that the only way the play could have failed was if Deebo had dropped it. Thankfully, he didn't, and quite honestly, it's the play that I go back to from time to time just to marvel at how good of a pass it actually was. So, if that was just an honorable mention, what could possibly be the actual entry? Well, coming in at number 11 is Brock's deep pass to Kittle for the touchdown in Week 4 against the Patriots in 2024. Now, what truly makes this play is Kittle's amazing catch, which is why I don't have it higher, even though I'm sure a lot of people would have this in their top 10. But the reason it's still on the list is because, once again, Brock put this ball in the only place that Kittle was going to be. Now, what makes this even more impressive is that Kittle said after the game that he couldn't believe they were even going with this actual play because the play wasn't meant to be done in the red zone. To me, that makes the throw that much more impressive. Oh, and there is one other thing that makes this play even more special. You see, for those that don't know, this was the third passing touchdown that Purdy had thrown in the same drive. The other two were taken away because of penalties. If that doesn't scream amazing, I don't know what does. As we head into the top 10, people have to be wondering what the plays coming are because any of the plays before could have easily been a top 10 play to some people, and that includes the honorable mentions. That's how good the plays have been, despite what others might think. So with that, the honorable mention comes courtesy of the Week 14 game against the Chicago Bears in 2024. And like number 13, this play probably didn't seem that important, but it was the deep pass to Isaac Guerendo that really impressed me. Not because it was a throw that we hadn't already seen Purdy make, but because it was to the rookie running back. This play represented to me Purdy's ability to connect with other members of the team, not just the star players. But if that pass looks familiar, it's because we had seen Purdy make that same throw to another running back, which of course leads to our number 10 pick, that beautiful floating pass that Purdy made on his back foot to Christian McCaffrey in Week 10 against the Bucs in 2024. This was McCaffrey's first game of the season after he was cleared to play following his Achilles injury. People weren't sure what CMC was going to look like after missing so much time, and while he didn't score any touchdowns, this throw and catch proved that the connection that Purdy and McCaffrey had since McCaffrey joined the team was still there. While many people thought Purdy was throwing the ball away, what he was actually doing was executing a play that he said him and McCaffrey had done in practice many times, and that Purdy knew exactly where McCaffrey was going to be, showing that a connection between a quarterback and a receiver is still one of the most important connections there are in football. This one was tough to put here because it's such a great play and a good example of a quarterback trusting a receiver. What's more is that from an honorable mention to the actual entry, it also showed off the evolution and connection of Brock Purdy and George Kittle, because the honorable mention is Brock Purdy's touchdown pass to Kittle at the back pylon versus the Raiders in 2022. The throw was on target and the catch was incredible. What impressed me with the play as a whole was that Purdy rolls out of the pocket and finds Kittle easily. It honestly looked like they had been playing for years together already, but it was only Purdy's 4th game as a starter, which brings me to number 9. The front pylon throw to Kittle in week 5 against the Seahawks in 2024. Again, the catch was unbelievable and it showed how good Kittle really was at his toe taps, which he prides himself on. But that throw, if that throw is even a tick late, it's batted down. If it's a tick early, it's a possible pick. If people want to continue to downplay Purdy's timing and accuracy, there's nothing more that can be said. But if you come away from this play and you continue to say that he's not a good quarterback, I simply don't know what to tell you. And just think, this is number 9. This could have easily been number 1 on someone's list. And what's more, this is the 4th play from the 3rd season. You know, the bad season that no one wants to talk about. But we move on to the next entry. Now, the reason why these are here is because throughout Purdy's career, for some reason, he's been saddled with the check down immersion title. It's honestly the easiest way to tell if someone actually watches Purdy play or whether they just watch specific highlights. But the plays for this entry should really put that narrative to rest. And the honorable mention that I picked out might be strange to some people because it happened after Purdy's first start. So we had already seen him throw deep, but this was the first time I had really seen him throw a deep ball to a receiver in stride, and that was Purdy's deep touchdown pass to Kittle in week 16 of 2022 against the Commanders. By this time, the Niners had basically already won the West and they were already in the playoffs, but when Purdy let go of this ball, I didn't know who he was even throwing the ball to, and then the camera pans to the right and the ball is landing in Kittle's hands as he's entering the end zone. It was an impressive throw and one that I still remember to this day. But there is another pass that beats this one out, and it's the number 8 entry. During the press conference after the Week 14 game against the Seahawks in 2023, Brock was asked about his touchdown pass to Debo. It was then that he mentioned that Debo was the last read in the progression, but he saw that the defender was flat-footed, and he knew that Debo could beat him, so he launched the ball and hit Debo in stride for the touchdown. This is a play that I love to watch because the arc of the ball is beautiful, and the fact that Debo never slows down as the ball hits him is amazing. In fact, Debo had to speed up just to be in position to catch the ball because he didn't think that he was going to get it because he was the 4th read. It's crazy, but if you look at the ball, it really does appear to land perfectly in Debo's arms. To me, that throw solidified Purdy as a top quarterback in the league. At this point, you might be asking yourself, why haven't I seen any plays involving Brandon Ayuk? Well, it just so happens that this next entry involves 2 of them. Now, I went back and forth on which play to make the honorable mention and which play to make the actual entry, and to be honest, either one is the correct choice, but I chose to make the touchdown pass to Ayuk in the Week 11 game against the Bucks in 2023 the honorable mention here. This was a tough one because this was the game where Purdy achieved his perfect passer rating, but I made this an honorable mention because it's very similar to number 8. Purdy hits Ayuk perfectly in stride. Now, while this was the longer of the 2 touchdowns yardage-wise, this touchdown was split more evenly between the pass by Purdy and the yards after catch by Ayuk. The last entry had very few yak yards, so the touchdown was more reliant on that throw. Now, the play that I chose for the number 7 entry, I don't think anyone is going to have an actual issue with because the pass I'm talking about actually came a week later when the Niners traveled to Seattle to avenge their Thanksgiving loss years before this, and I'm betting you already know what play I'm going to highlight. You see, up until that point, Ayuk hadn't had many targets that game, and the commentators actually mentioned that as we neared the end of the game. And of course, right after that, Purdy delivered a dagger to Ayuk for the final touchdown of the game. What made this throw special was the fact that he not only threw it in between 4 defenders, but when you listen to Shanahan after the game, no one could believe that he was even throwing the ball since there was a check down available to get the yardage for the first down. It proved, once again, that if Purdy saw a big play, he was going to take the risk and give his guy a chance to make it. It's still one of those plays that you can go back to every now and then and still be impressed with it. When I was putting this entire list together, I started to notice that a lot of amazing plays that Purdy's made throughout his career have involved George Kittle, and this entry is no different. In fact, this entry actually included 2 plays made against the same team with the same result, but with different paths to get there. In the honorable mention slot, we have the touchdown pass to George Kittle in Week 14 against the Seahawks in 2023. Now, there really isn't anything too fancy about this throw and catch, but I still think it was a fantastic pass because if you're not paying close attention to Kittle, you might think he appears out of nowhere to make that catch. But there was an even better play that occurred in Purdy's first season in Week 15 against the Seahawks, and everyone who saw that game knows exactly which play it is. At number 6, we have Purdy's amazing double pump fake pass to Kittle down the middle for one of the easiest touchdowns I've ever seen. In fact, that play was so good that in 2023, in that Week 14 game, the Seahawks used that exact same play against the 49ers with the same result. Although, if you look at that play side by side, you will notice a distinct difference in the 2 quarterbacks and the way they executed that play. It's still one of the most memorable plays that I've ever seen and one that I see mentioned all the time. This next entry is one that I can see being controversial because it's not a play that people will talk about without being prompted, at least from what I've seen, but it's a play that I think about often and what it actually meant for the game as a whole. But first, the honorable mention. Now, I'll be honest and say that this is only an honorable mention because of the play that I actually chose, and this is a play that Purdy made that's semi-comparable, but it occurred in Week 14 against the Bucs in 2022. And for some, this is when they knew Purdy was more than just a third-string backup when he rolled out of the pocket to his right and right into the path of an oncoming defender, except the defender never had a chance to make the tackle as Purdy breaks mid-run, avoids being touched, and makes the jump pass to Debo for the first down. Honestly, it's a thing of beauty, especially if you watch it in slow motion. I don't care what anyone says, most third-string quarterbacks don't do things like this. This is when we knew that Purdy could be special. So what could possibly be number 5 then? Well, I'm sure if I said the words Purdy, Juice, and Lions, you'd know the exact play. Honestly, I've watched this play over 3 times and I still don't know how Purdy managed to do it. It is, of course, Purdy avoiding the sack, scrambling out of the pocket, and connecting with Kyle Juszczyk, who made one of the craziest tiptoe catches that I've ever seen, and got the first down to keep the drive alive. See, while most people would call Purdy's height a disadvantage, it was this play that made me realize that if Purdy was any taller, I don't think he could have avoided the sack. When you watch that play from different angles, you notice that Purdy's knees could have easily hit the turf, but they didn't. For anyone who tries to make a claim that Purdy doesn't have pocket awareness, they need to see this play. Also, shout out to Juice for being one heck of a receiver. I don't think he gets enough credit for what he brings to this team, but this play should prove otherwise. Well, we're getting down to the cream of the crop, and I know that there are some of you who are still waiting to hear certain plays. This is where things got really tricky, simply because there are so many great plays that have happened over the past 3 seasons. Now, both entries for number 4 do involve the same type of play, and once again, for me, they could be interchangeable, but I chose what I chose for very specific reasons. And so, as an honorable mention, we have the broken play in the Week 15 game against the Cardinals in 2023, where Brock is forced to roll out of the pocket due to a breakdown in protection, and when it looks like he could take off on a run, he instead sees a very open Christian McCaffrey and lobs the ball while moving in his direction, which CMC is then able to catch, fall down, get back up, and still make it into the end zone. It's one of my favorite plays to rewatch because that play only works because of Purdy's rollout. Why? Because when he rolls out, the defender who was on McCaffrey has to stay back to prevent Purdy from running, allowing CMC to get down the field unprotected. Which brings us to the number 4 entry, that being the scramble drill touchdown to Brandon Ayuk just 2 weeks later against the Commanders. Not only was Purdy coming back after a brutal game against the Ravens, but it was this game and that touchdown pass that helped him break the all-time passing record for the franchise. But more than that, it really showed how in sync Purdy and Ayuk really were, because as Purdy is scrambling to the right, you see him point to the end zone, allowing Ayuk to get into position for the pass that Purdy threw. There is a reason I use this play as part of the intro for Season 2 of the series. It's an amazing play from start to finish because in my opinion, it showed off why Brock Purdy's pocket awareness is elite. And here we are at the top 3. Like an earlier entry, both the honorable mention and the actual play were both in the same game. If I were to mention the Week 10 game against the Jaguars in 2023, I'm betting you all already know at least one of the plays, and you'd be right. But let's talk about the honorable mention first, and that would be, in my opinion, the first touchdown pass to Brandon Ayuk. Yes, we all know it was the bad decision, and that play could have been a disaster. But at the same time, to me, what I took away from that pass, catch, and touchdown was how accurate Purdy actually had to be in order to get that ball in the exact place that it needed to be. Any lower, that ball is intercepted. Any higher, and Ayuk doesn't come down with the catch. At the same time, Purdy also had to deal with the fact that Kittle was not where he was supposed to be, and he could have easily batted that ball down as a safety measure. But the pass was perfect. Like I said in the episode that featured this play, the decision was bad, but that pass was anything but. Which of course brings us to number 3, and we all know what play it is. Some of you probably believe this should have been the number 1 play. It's that good. The thing is, I don't even need to explain what happened. It will go down as the most unexpected touchdown that I've ever seen. I could watch that play over and over again and still not know how he got that ball to Kittle. When people talk about the trust a quarterback has to have with his receivers, this play will always be the one that I think of. It's that good. But it's not in the top 2 plays, at least in my opinion. In fact, for the top 2 plays, I don't even have an honorable mention, because when you look at these plays on their own, in my opinion, they show why Purdy is the franchise quarterback for this team. I know there are fans out there that would disagree with that, and that's their right. But to me, these 2 plays should be all that's needed to explain why. At number 2, we have the touchdown pass to George Kittle against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in Week 10 of 2024. One of the criticisms that Purdy faced this past season was that he was holding the ball for too long, but at the same time, there were times when the receivers weren't getting the necessary separation, so Purdy would have to scramble to keep the play alive, and in this instance, that's exactly what he did. He kept the play alive long enough for Kittle to get open in the end zone. He was able to scramble to his left, find Kittle, and launch the ball to the only spot that gave Kittle a chance to come down with the ball, in the back of the end zone, over the shoulder, and once again, Kittle got to show off his toe tap skills. He came down with the ball for the touchdown, and in my mind, it cemented the fact that Kittle had surpassed everyone else as Purdy's most reliable weapon on the football field. For some, he already was, but this game cemented it for me. In all honesty, this was a play that, at least for me, made me realize that it didn't matter what anyone else had to say about Purdy. It didn't matter if they thought he was a below average quarterback. It didn't matter that people said he was only good because of his team. It didn't matter that people didn't call him elite. None of it mattered because this play showed me otherwise. Slap a number 15 on the back of his jersey and change his last name to Mahomes, and that play is being showed 3 times an hour on ESPN for months. But it's still not enough to make the number 1 entry, and by now, you probably have already figured it out. Honestly, the strangest thing about putting this play at number 1 is the fact that the result of the play was an incompletion, but it's one of the craziest incompletions I've ever seen. I'm confident that if Brandon Ayuk catches this pass, it would be one of the top plays in 49ers history. Heck, it still might be, even though he couldn't keep a hold on it. I am, of course, talking about the wildcard game against the Seahawks in 2022. One thing you have to remember was that this was Purdy's first playoff game against a divisional rival, and it was only his 6th game as an NFL starter. I've watched this play probably more than any other. Part of it is watching how Purdy evaded everyone. Part of it is watching him actually throw the ball as he's about to be hit. Part of it is watching the zip and the angle that he had on that football. And part of it is watching the reactions of the other player as it's thrown and then dropped. That's not even mentioning the crowd getting more and more excited as the play went on. It's really one of the best plays I've ever seen. I think something else I deeply respect about that play is the fact that Brock Purdy pulled out everything he could, even though the 49ers had that game put away. Some people have said that it was unnecessary because he was putting himself in harm's way to get that touchdown, but I look at it this way. He wanted to make sure there was no doubt who was winning that game. And he wanted to make sure everyone knew what kind of quarterback he was going to be. How do I know that? Because during this last offseason, he mentioned that he wanted to have that mentality of making sure the other team was put away and had no chance of coming back. This play showed that he's actually had that mentality ever since he was a rookie. And there you have it, my personal list of the top 15 plays and some honorable mentions of the past 3 seasons. Truthfully, there are so many other plays that weren't mentioned, but if I had included them all, this video would have been 3 hours long. So I want to know what your favorite plays are. Sound off in the comments below. Let me know what you would have had in your top 10 or top 20 or even more. I want to hear from you. Now, before I sign off, I just wanted to give an update about this series as a whole. I've thought about it, and I realized that irrelevant for me is easier to make once the actual season is over. So, while we watch Brock Purdy and the rest of the team make a run for the Super Bowl, irrelevant will be on a hiatus, but it will return. That doesn't mean that I still won't be uploading content, it just means that it won't be this series, at least not until this upcoming season is over. I'll still be making 49er related content, among other content that I've been looking forward to making that won't be 49er related, but it will still be football related. In fact, one of the other videos I plan on making after this is my own personal top 15 quarterback rankings. I know I've already made one, but that was based on stats. Now, I get to be biased. Until then, I want to personally thank each and every one of you that have tuned in week after week. It's made this all worthwhile. It's been so fun getting to make this series as I've learned more and more about video editing. Until then, thanks for liking, commenting, and watching. It means the world. Catch you soon.